Well, as you've heard in the stories of Ed and Ed here, and as you have likely experienced yourself, the Y has a way of weaving its way into people's lives. Gary Mahn, our featured speaker this evening, has certainly had that experience. Gary began his career in 1972 as a management consultant with the Boise office of Ernst & Ernst, and in 1976 he went on to co-found Learned Mahn, a Boise-based software company, with Kevin Learned, who I think is here tonight. In 1985, he purchased Fisher's Office Equipment of Boise and expanded the company dramatically before selling its office supply division to Boise Cascade Office Products, now Office Max, in 1995. He retained ownership in the equipment division, now known as Fisher's Document Systems, of which he is now chairman. Gary has served in numerous leadership roles in our community. In 1991, he was named Idaho's Small Business Person of the Year. In 1998, Gary was appointed director of the Idaho Department of Commerce, where he served until 2002, and he currently serves on the Idaho Independent Bank Board of Directors. He's been a great leader in the Y. He served as the Y's board chairman from 1984 to 1986, chairman of our Heritage Club from 2001 to 2006. He received the Y's Service to Youth Award in 1988, and in 2003 was honored with the Y's Vern Emery Award, which recognizes a volunteer whose influence and long-term commitment to the Y has helped shape our future. Gary received his Bachelor of Science degree in Business from the University of Idaho and his MBA from the Wharton School. He's a CPA. Are you a CPA? I don't know who wrote this, but it's just really riveting. Gary and his wife, Kathy, have been married for nearly 45 years. They have two children, Beth, who lives in Boise, and Richard, who lives in Shanghai. They have two grandsons, children of Beth and Chris, Isaac, who's 5, and Lucas, who is 2. Gary loves to play golf, fish, play golf, fish, play golf. You get the idea, especially at his home in McCall. Gary, we're ready to hear from you. Come on up.
Well, I had to go over and say hi to Ed and Ed. They're my two heroes. They've done more for this Y than just about any two people alive, or that aren't alive anymore. But they have done a tremendous job. So let me see if I can find some remarks here. My wife, Kathy, was concerned about how long this speech would be, and if I go as fast as Jeremy, it'll be done in 5 minutes, okay? But wasn't that really neat, listening to Jeremy? What a neat deal. Anyway, and I'm going to warn you right up front that if I start crying, I'm going to reach down and pull up my socks. Now, there's a lot of people here that know that story, but then I finally figured it out today. I said something to one of the, Katie at the Y, I said, if I get emotional in this speech, I may cry. And she said, well, just reach down and pull up your socks. And she didn't need to tell me anymore. Anybody that's been around Jim Everett for a long time knows that what he does when he gets emotional, and he does it about every other minute, that he pulls up his socks. So if you see me going down here, that's what I'm doing. So first of all, really good to see so many friends here tonight. It's interesting when you've been in Boise for a long time, and I know there's people here that've been a lot longer than me, but I've been here for nearly 40 years, I guess. You meet a lot of people. You come in contact with them through the Y, through business, through your church, and so on and so forth. And I can look around the room tonight, and it's just like a montage of my life in Boise. Everybody in this room, somehow I've become in contact with and have been touched by, and I thank you very much. Well, I'm truly honored to be the speaker tonight. I mean, there's a long list of really, really prestigious people that have spoke at this Heritage Club dinner, and I never thought I'd reach that pinnacle, but here I am, and you're stuck with me. My background in the YMCA was touched upon by Steve, but I want to let you know just how important the YMCA has been to me over the past 60 years. As an 8-year-old boy growing up in Spokane, I would get on the bus. By the way, this is a very, very old picture of Spokane. And I think if you really look hard, you can find the YMCA in there. But anyway, it's an old picture, but it's all I could find. I would get on the bus and go to the Spokane Downtown Y to swim in a steamy old pool, male only, without a bathing suit in sight. How many here have experienced that at the YMCA over the years? It was actually pretty ugly. It really was. And I have to say that experience did not endear me to the YMCA. But a few years later, I joined the Gray Y. How many here have heard of the Gray Y? Gray Y. Well, it was a YMCA youth group. And that's where I learned to love the YMCA. Mr. Kingsland was my 7th grade teacher and the Gray Y advisor. And I distinctly remember him teaching those of us in that little Gray Y club the values of the YMCA. He was one of my first mentors. So in 1971, when I started my career in Boise, one of the first organizations I joined and volunteered for was the Boise Family YMCA. Those were the days of Vern Emery and Daryl Scott. And tonight we have with us Barbara Emery and Martha, Vern's daughter, Martha, his widow. And we just thank you for the wonderful contributions Vern made to the Y and to the city. And Daryl Scott was certainly an important part. They were both former YMCA directors who were outstanding mentors to a number of people in this room tonight. Now, this is a Jimmy deal. Because Vern's locker was in the same row as mine, our row was named the Locker Row of the Century. And there have been some knockoffs on that over time, but we still are the locker row of the century. Now you got to know Jimmy to realize that that's the kind of thing he likes to do, is talk about that stuff. Anyway, things have changed a bit at the Y since the late 70s. Back then, the goal for the annual fund drive was $30,000, and Jimmy Everett was the new swim coach, looking like he just got out of junior high. You know? And you got to really look at this picture closely, but I can see it because I got it right up here. But there's a hand right on top of his shoulder, and whoever the professionals are in the Y that picked out this picture for me and put it up here, they had to crop out whoever that hand belonged to. But I look at it this way: that hand are the Jeremys of the world, hanging on to Jim Everett. There I go. Okay, the Y has come a long way since then. The annual fund drive is now $1 million, up from $30,000. And I tell you what, at $30,000, I remember that. The Eds remember it. I'm sure John does. I mean, it was incredible. We didn't think we'd ever going to meet that goal, but we did. And now we're after $1 million a year. And Jimmy, the other thing that's happened is $1 million, but Jimmy has matured to the point where he looks like he just graduated from college, even with the gray hair. But an interesting factoid about Jim Everett is that he left the YMCA in 1983 to become the executive director of the Benton Harbor, Michigan YMCA. So when that same position, the executive directorship, opened up here at the Boise Family YMCA, Jim applied, but he was not the unanimous choice for obvious reasons. So there was a search committee, and we didn't vote unanimously for Jimmy. How many people, I know Nancy Rieberger and Ed Clary were on that search committee. Anybody else here on that search committee? Well, Nancy and Ed and I and whoever else was on that committee, I can't remember, maybe one or two others, we actually threw a fit when Jimmy was turned down. And so we insisted that Jim Everett come out here for an interview. He didn't do well in the telephone interview, but he did well in person, you can imagine. But anyway, we hired him, and the story is legend. And I can tell you this, that Ed and Nancy and I will say that, you know, individually and collectively, we have never done more for this community than hire Jim Everett. So let's give our big hand to him. So this is where I get into trouble. I'd like to acknowledge some people here tonight in attendance that are near and dear to me. My wife, Kathy, and she's sitting there. Where did you get that picture? Beth, you were 11 years old or something. My wife, Kathy, and daughter, Beth, along with our son, Richard, who, as mentioned, lives in Shanghai, China. They have been and continue to be a great source of love and strength to me. I'd like to recognize my church family from St. Michael's Episcopal Cathedral, where I'm continually impressed with their outreach ministries to those in need. And of course, my Fishers teammates, who are out here on a couple tables, who've had to put up with me for a long time, some of them for almost 30 years. The 65 team members at Fishers are my extended family. I certainly appreciate their commitment to our customers and to this community. And finally, there's my YMCA running group. Has anybody ever heard of the running group? This running group, who is right here in all its glory, was started in 1973, almost 40 years ago. Now, I've got to take a few minutes and tell you about them. The active members are Greg Shade, who was there with me at the start. Greg, raise your hand. You're incredible. Phil Rieberger, Larry Jeffries, Drew Forney, Pat Sullivan, and John Childen, most of whom are in attendance tonight. The principal inactive member is Craig Fenwick, who dropped out when Martha Hayes, Tom's wife, left the city of Boise to move to another business opportunity with her husband. And Craig could not stand it. He was hooked on Martha. And he was so hooked on Martha that she used to be the aerobic dance instructor, and we didn't run back then too much. We would go up in the gym, and she would take us through a bunch of dances. And you know, Martha's a very attractive lady today. She was equally attractive back then. And the guys in the running group said, well, we're going to stay here and do this aerobic deal with Martha. And so one of the things that Martha did at Christmas time is make us wear these little bells on our ankles. And we used to dance with these bells on. And so tonight, when I saw Martha, she gave me a set of bells. So Martha is truly an unofficial member of our running group. So we've been meeting at 6:30 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings to stretch, run 3 miles on the same boring route, and pump iron. For those of you that have watched us over those years would say the only thing we've stretched is our lips, and the 3 miles, which used to take 20 minutes, now it is a brisk walk that takes over 40 minutes. And the Strive weight room is just an excuse for political propaganda. As weird as these guys are, they really are my best friends. So raise your hand there, guys. Okay. You know, and this is what the YMCA is all about. It's about Jeremy's and a whole bunch of other things. But it's also about camaraderie, and we have camaraderie in our group. We have fun. We love to socialize with other YMCAers, and best of all, we are in relatively good physical shape. The running group would not have happened if it were not for the YMCA. Anytime I get the chance, particularly to young people, I urge them to replicate what we've done. It seems to have worked. And to my buddies, I thank you guys. We actually are having more fun than we deserve. So I want to share with you a bit about my background so you'll have some context as to where I'm going with my remarks about leadership. I was born and raised in Spokane. My parents owned a florist shop in Greenhouse, adjacent to my childhood home. My dad had an 8th grade education. My mother graduated from high school. It was really a typical, I'm the one with the big ears, It was really a typical blue-collar family where they worked hard, made very little money, and taught their two sons good values. From the age of 13 until I was 17, I worked after school and on weekends as a box boy in a neighborhood grocery store. I started out at $1.05 an hour, and 4 years later I was making $1.15 an hour. My membership in the Retail Clerks Union didn't pan out. My parents had so much integrity in their lives and the way they conducted themselves that they were absolutely my first exposure to true integrity-based leadership in the way they managed their family and the way they ran their business. Please notice that I use the word integrity, and we'll revisit that in a moment. My mother, who was very close to me, passed away in 2005. She would have been 100 years old tomorrow. I was the first in my family to attend college. After college, I served 4 years in the Navy, which was followed by my MBA. The first real job in 1971, as mentioned, was with Ernst & Ernst. And I was actually hired as a management consultant, which is unbelievable that anybody would want me to consult for them. But it'd be even more unbelievable if they hired me as their CPA. But that's when I began my love affair with Boise, 1971, with entrepreneurship and the YMCA. I can't think of a better place to live out one's life than the state of Idaho, particularly the Treasure Valley, where one of the most endearing attributes is the YMCA, where no kid is ever turned away for lack of funds. From the largest child care program in the state to the new $20 million YMCA camp, that's why the Heritage Club is so important. It is a critical part of the funding vehicle to make this all happen. So if you're not a member of the Heritage Club, please, please join up. It doesn't take a lot of money. I mean, you can give more later. It's a cause that truly makes a difference. And speaking of the new Y camp, I'd like to thank John Ferry for his incredible leadership and other people in the room. But, I mean, John, you've just gone beyond the mile. It's been great. And speaking of leadership, which John oozes with leadership, that's a topic for this evening, leadership. There are a number of topics I could have, Kathy, are you giving me the high sign? There are a number of topics I could have selected. Maybe I didn't select this. Maybe you did, Jim. I don't know. But anyway, with Jimmy's blessing, I chose leadership. Leadership is one of the YMCA's core missions. That is to give youth, as we noticed with Jeremy, the confidence to take part as a leader in various YMCA activities and develop leadership skills. So why is leadership so important? As I look at our society today, I believe we have a shortage of quality leadership. In fact, in my opinion, we have a dearth of leadership in government, in our businesses, in our nonprofits, and in our families. I contend that if we had more quality leadership in our government, in our businesses, in our nonprofits, and yes, in our families, we'd have more successful outcomes, just as we see here every day at the YMCA, which, by the way, has outstanding leadership throughout the organization, both from the staff and the volunteers. To make my point, I want to highlight an outstanding volunteer leader at the Y. If you don't know Tom Markland, you need to. Is Tom here? I didn't see him. He is here. Okay. There he is over there. Don't stand up yet, Tom. If you don't know him, you should. He is the youngest 74-year-old that I know. He's in the row of the century, by the way. He's retired with 17 grandkids, while he is an outstanding grandpa to his own kids. Tom finds time to be a larger-than-life mentor to hundreds of other YMCA kids. Tom is super with teens because he's a great listener and is non-judgmental. He helps with the Y Camp, the Y Leaders Club, the Refugee Job Training Program, YMCA Overnights, and Rake Up Boise. He's especially good with those kids who are struggling to find their way in life and lack a sense of purpose and belonging. He's always there for them. Recently, one girl saw Tom at the Y when she's coming over from Boise High for the Lifetime Fitness class and said, "Hi, Tom," as she raced up the stairs. She got almost to the top and then raced back down and gave Tom a hug and said, "Thanks for being the grandpa I never had." Hundreds of teens, this is a sock puller moment. Hundreds of teens will tell you that Tom has had a tremendously positive and lasting impact on their lives. Tom is truly a great YMCA leader. Thank you, Tom. Then there's Bus Hestigan. Bus, are you here? I think we don't. He is here, isn't he, Jim? Okay. He used to be a member of the Heritage Club trustees. That's the one that Jim put up there that I didn't know I was still on. He came to Jim one day and said that sitting on this committee was not what his, it was rather boring, actually. And he was not what he was really wanted to do. He wanted something more hands-on. So Jim connected him to the Make a Splash program, which is the Y's third grade swim lesson program. Now, most 82-year-olds are not too excited about putting on a swimsuit and jumping in the water with a bunch of 8-year-olds, most of whom are terrified of the water. But Bus is there week in and week out, teaching these kids to overcome their fear and to become safe around the water. He is a mentor and a role model to these kids and to the staff, who are mostly 60 years younger than he. Bus truly makes a difference. Let's give Bus a big hand. Yeah, stand up, please, Bus. There he is. Okay. Great. So why aren't there more Tom Marklands and Bus Hestigans in our world? Could it be we don't put enough emphasis on the value of leadership? Or maybe we don't really understand how to identify leadership. So what are the traits of leadership? Is a leader a person with vision, a person that's charismatic and charming, a person that's smart and knowledgeable, one that is daring and fearless? Is a leader a person that is compassionate as well as passionate, a person that is committed and disciplined, a person that is a great communicator? Well, think about the leaders in your lives. Do all of them have all those traits? Probably not, but they undoubtedly have some of those traits. But the most effective, truly successful leaders have one trait in common that's not even mentioned in that list, and that is integrity. The attribute I ascribe to my parents. So what is integrity? People with integrity are honest and trusting. Let me say that again. People with integrity are honest and trusting. They have values, the same values cherished by the YMCA. They mean what they say. They keep their word. People find them reliable and in so doing are dedicated to them. A leader without integrity has very few, if any, true followers. What good would it be to be a leader with a great vision but no integrity? A leader with no integrity has virtually no chance of having any dedicated, committed followers. And please do not fall into the trap of equating success with integrity-based leadership. There are numerous so-called success stories in our society where integrity wasn't even in the equation. Unfortunately, we read about them every day when we pick up the newspaper or watch the news. The tragic situation at Penn State comes to mind. And how about the recent report on 60 Minutes last Sunday that the U.S. Congress is immune from our inciting trading laws that apply to all the rest of us? Another example of leadership without integrity. One incredible success story at the Y that is all about integrity is our beloved Pam Parker. Pam is here tonight. In 1977, Pam started working at the Y, about the same time that Jim Everett started working as a swim coach. Pam was a bookkeeper, and she soon found that she had inherited a very challenging job due to the Y's financial condition. Pam did not have an extensive accounting background, but her commitment to learning and to doing the job right was extraordinary from day one. She was a quick study and benefited greatly from the mentoring she received from Ed Osborne and Ed Clary and Lee Abercrombie, Bob Klump, Gary Kaiser, and Tom Adams, all who I consider my mentors also. These folks loved working with Pam because she soaked things up and did such a great job. Pam, in return, was a mentor to dozens of other Y staff members and especially to emerging female leaders. Pam was a huge part of the Y for more than 25 years. In her early days, when the Guided Discovery Program was on the chopping block due to cost cutting, she went door to door to encourage other young moms to sign their kids up for this important activity. She knew its value to kids and their parents. She was successful. As that program has grown by leaps and bounds, and now celebrates its 33rd year of operation, serving thousands of kids, including my own. Pam was in charge of fundraising when we raised $13 million for the West Y Boise City Aquatic Center. In prior fund drives, the Y had never raised more than $1.2 million. Pam has been and continues to be a wonderful role model to lots of people. She was an early leader in the male-dominated world of the YMCA and has left her legacy in all the successful integrity-based leaders she has mentored over the last 35 years. Thank you, Pam, from the bottom of our hearts. Let's give Pam a big hand. Thank you, Pam. Now that everybody else is sitting down, why don't you just wave your hand so we can see. Okay, good. So if you buy into the concept that leadership is hollow without integrity, you should be wondering, well, how do we identify integrity? The answer is you know it when you see it. All you have to do is see how somebody lives their life and conducts themselves. Tom, Buzz, and Pam reek with integrity, but they don't have integrity stamped on their foreheads, nor is it on their resumes. To determine who has integrity and who doesn't, trust your judgment. You are the determination of who has integrity. Actions speak louder than words. The more challenging question is, how do we develop integrity? It's a little late in our lives, but particularly in our youth. While a person can learn some leadership traits, it is impossible to proactively learn integrity. For example, you can learn to be a better communicator, one of the hallmarks of a leadership trait. But integrity is subconsciously absorbed from your family, your faith, and your friends. If you, particularly as a child, are exposed to integrity, you have a much better chance that it will take. I contend that mentoring is one of the best ways to instill integrity. I was fortunate to have a few notable mentors as I was growing up. One was a lady that owned that grocery store where I was the box boy. She insisted I quit chewing my fingernails. The other was a man, and I haven't much to this day. The other was a man that owned a wholesale florist company in Spokane where my parents worked after they sold their greenhouse. The man had so much integrity and such a great value system, it was impossible not to learn from him. The last time I saw him was at my mother's funeral in 2005, and I figured that he had died. But the other day, I woke up in the middle of the night and I started thinking about him. So the wonderful thing about this day and age we live in, with Google and all the information we had, I found out that he was still alive. He's 92 years old. And so in preparing these remarks and reminiscing about him, I sent him an email to thank him for being such a great mentor to me. And I got an unbelievable response back from him. We all need mentors. The act of mentoring reminds me of Nelson Henderson, a Canadian farmer with a large family who taught his children one of the important values of life. The true meaning of life, he said, is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. Let me say that again. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. If that doesn't represent the YMCA and the mentoring system here, I don't know what does. There is no better mentoring group in the Treasure Valley than the YMCA, and the best mentor I know is the integrity-based leadership of Jim Everett, and the integrity-based leaders under Jim who are inspiring mentors to the YMCA youth. In my opinion, the M in the YMCA really should stand for mentoring, not men. The YMCA produces day after day integrity-based leaders and mentors in our community. I can look around here tonight and just see a ton of them, But let's take a couple. Take Rhonda Tipton. Rhonda, are you here? She's here. She's here, right? Okay. Rhonda has been the face of the Y at the downtown Boise Y front desk for 28 years. As early as 5 a.m., Rhonda greets everybody that comes into the Y with a friendly good morning and knows most of our names. This single-parent mom of an honor student is committed to modeling the values of the Y And the way Rhonda reached out to Charlie Hanford, who was recognized earlier, is a good example. And I'll just really quickly go through this. But Charlie, who passed away earlier this year, came to the Y after losing 2 of his children. He'd recently suffered through several strokes and had just gone through a divorce. He would get up at 3 in the morning to make sure he could be at the Y by 5 a.m. to see Rhonda and his Y family. His family told us that the Y kept Charlie alive 10 more years than anyone expected. And I can remember seeing him in the morning down there. It's just he could hardly walk, you know, and he was making it work, though. What a guy. Charlie and Rhonda are both leaders by example. Rhonda is steady and always there to make our day, while Charlie overcame his challenges and rarely missed a day at the Y. And he never lost his sense of humor. So thank you, Rhonda. And then there's Tom Hayes, Martha's better half, who left a very lucrative career to work for the Y in the accounting department. He came to the Y so he could make a difference. He reads to kids regularly, and while doing this, becomes a role model, mentor, and friend. When the Y started the Make a Splash program, Tom was one of the first volunteers to sign up. This takes a big chunk of his day twice a week, and he often has to stay late or come in on weekends to catch up. His time with the kids is the highlight of his day. He's in charge of moving the kids from the bus through the locker rooms to the pool and back to the buses. With his military background, it is a perfect job for him. He gets the kids in line and organized, all the while teaching them and becoming a friend and mentor. Last week, one of the kids confided in him, to Tom, that he wasn't afraid to swim anymore. Learning to swim is scary for many third graders. Tom knows that conquering our fears is a transferable skill and one that is necessary for success in life. So a big thank you to Tom Hayes. So, in summary, one does not need a prestigious title to be a true leader. One does not need to wait for the perfect time or opportunity to become a leader. Life is full of leadership opportunities. It rarely takes an act of heroism to be a leader. Leadership is generally the steady, day-to-day acts of caring, honesty, respect, and responsibility demonstrated by Tom, Buzz, Pam, Rhonda, Charlie, and Tom. We can all be integrity-based leaders, everybody in this room. The world needs us now more than ever. God bless America, and God bless the YMCA. Thank you.